The rape and murder of the 31-year-old doctor in Kolkata has shaken the collective consciousness of the entire country. And are women in this city, working women, feeling unsafe after that incident? Remember, the protests that we are seeing on the streets are not just limited to Kolkata. We are seeing it happen all across India, from metropolitan cities to B towns. Women everywhere are demanding safe spaces because this doctor was in a safe space. She was in a hospital. We have a very accomplished panel here with us, an actor, author, a doctor here with me. We have a food writer, a communication specialist, and a consultant, and also someone who is an activist reclaiming night. I'm going to begin with the actor. Will this actually lead to women being provided with safe spaces? Because, you know, we often say that it's all very well to have these big movements, but when it comes to real change, the change can begin only if it comes from within.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, thank you. Because I personally believe that from where Rimjim had started, the Reclaiming the Night, and it was on the eve of the Independence Day, but people showed up in huge numbers. I mean, that looked great. I know I'll sound very controversial. It was also very Instagrammable for a lot of people. But right now, the word on the street is, we want justice. But look at the facade right now. I believe, it's my personal belief, that we are fighting, and we are fighting a feudal system which is corrupt, and the language, the tool that we are using right now is that of democracy. So with the tools of democracy, we are trying to fight a feudal system which is so patriarchal. So for that to eventually successfully demand, for women to demand safe space, I think right now it would be very important to form smaller collectives, form smaller gatherings and start talking, because otherwise everybody is asking for justice. From whom are we asking justice? Look at the condition. Are we happy with whatever we are hearing from the Supreme Court? Are we? I don't think we are very happy. I won't mince my words. But the thing is that, I don't know, I'm questioning justice every other day, but I know that there's no one from where I can want it anymore. I demand it right now, and if you will not give it to me on a platter, I will coerce it. So right now, within my working space, which is the Tollywood industry, I am gathering all the women in cinema, and I think it was so perfectly timed. I mean, crime has no perfect time. It sounds awkward. But this incident, along with the perfect timing of the Gita committee report, we were immediately made aware of the situation in the unorganized sector, something like entertainment industry. We have nothing in place, no structure in place. So now I'm trying to collect all the women in cinema just to raise about these concerns, all the demands that is being raised in these Reclaiming the Nights and everywhere else, that do we have like protocols, like legal provisions like POSH or POXO in place? How are we looking, though we are regional cinema, how are we looking at questions of intimacy scenes? How are we going to deal with it? And what is in place? How can we ensure that we have something like a effective whistleblowing tool in place? So these are things that we are raising as questions, and I think everybody should be raising these questions in their own workplaces, because that was not only her safe space because it was a hospital, it was her workspace. Yes. So it was an employer's responsibility. So right now we all need to question our employers within our workspaces, that do we have these provisions? Because this is something that you need to have. So why is it not in place? I think this is where it needs to go.
Yes. And it was a government hospital. So more so reason for government to be held accountable and responsible. Dr. Panna, as someone who has been part of the protests, and you are from the same profession, is it safe to be a doctor in this city?
Thank you, Marya, for having me here. Yes, it is absolutely safe to be a doctor in this city. There's no two way about it. But the victim here in question has been an awful target of a very inhumane, corrupt system. And that is where we should put our mind into. This is a systematic failure on part of the system that was in responsibility to uphold all her integrity. How could someone from outside walk in and do the heinous crime and get away doing it with it? I presume he or whoever was there felt safe doing whatever they did on that fateful night. So this is an event which cannot say that all workplaces everywhere is unsafe for women. NCRB data and statistics prove the point that the city of Joy, women are the safest for the third consecutive year, right? So I pride in my city, I hope in my city, and I'm so happy that there are young minds like Rimjim, Debjani, Benny, who are thinking, they're putting their minds, and we as the senior professionals would follow you all, right? Thank you so much.
I'm loving this conversation, particularly. We have just started, though. And Sneha, as a former journalist and now a communication consultant, we have seen women raise voices against incidents of crime. It has happened in multiple cities. I mean, in 2012, all of us were on the streets protesting with citizens when the Nirbhaya incident happened.
2011 was also the Park Street rape in Calcutta, for that matter.
Yes, but what makes this almost like a tipping point?
The fact that there is no fear. I mean, you can get away with anything, murder, rape. People have become like, they don't fear anything, whether it's not wearing a helmet and harassing a woman I drive late in the night. I have had men saying, oh, आपने हमको overtake कर लिया, इसीलिए हमको अच्छा नहीं लगा, and they came and blocked my car. This was at 12 o'clock, somewhere on AGC Bose Road. So things have happened. There is just no fear. Because who do you go to? If you go to the Thana and everything, initially they will try to shoo you away, saying, क्या है? बंद, ठीक है.
टेक ओवर करना क्या है?
हाँ, ठीक है. क्या प्रॉब्लम? बच्चे हैं, हेलमेट नहीं पहनते हैं. So if they were riding in an unsafe way, that's not my headache. I was driving with a seat belt on and everything. So the thing is, in this city, what has happened? In 2011, I think, when the Park Street rape happened, that's when I was a journalist. And I was covering lifestyle. So the party sector used to go on till 4 in the morning. What happened? They stopped the business. They said 12 o'clock. Now that we're talking about doctors' safety, what has the government said? Let them not work at night. So why is the curfew only on us? Coming to that, I'll put in an interesting point. I have been working on that. We have two corporations, right? Bidhannagar and Calcutta. In Calcutta, we have women performers singing at bars and everything. In Salt Lake Sector 5 or Rajarhat, which comes under Bidhannagar, you cannot have women performer. Why? Because you had one case, God knows when. You can have women DJs performing, but not singers. So there is discrimination from the system in the garb of, we cannot provide you security, so stay at home. That's very concerning, and that's where the tipping point is. You're asking us to take a back seat every single time and not correcting yourself.
With these diktats where you'll say that women will be safe only if they don't work at night or not do
sing
night duties.
Or they don't sing. They can play a music, they can be a DJ. There are women staff at all these outlets, whether it's an IT sector, whether it's the F&B parties, F&B sector, F&B outlets. It's a buzzing place, which is on till 1 o'clock. You have women employees. Then what do you tell to the women employees? You're just stopping from women singing to assure safety.
So how many spaces will be closed for women in the garb of safety?
When actually we are talking about women's safety at workplace here. I think it's important to look at this problem in its entirety. When we talk about women's safety, I think we should also remember that less than 50% of women's population are in the workforce. So I think we also need to understand that, this problem, the thing to remember is, one is equality. And once we do not have equality, these incidents of crime and violence and respect will never come. That's my feeling. We need to be in a situation, when we are talking about safety at workplace, I think we also need to remember that it's not just about workplace. It's also, sexual harassment is also in public transport. And when we are talking about safety and equality, I think we should remember the entire problem is to be addressed in its entirety. And for me, the most important words are respect and equality and equal pay. But having said that, I think one important thing which I always insist on is the need for men to understand that this is not a women's issue. It's a gender issue. And the fact that, the more men will understand the need for their involvement in this issue, they will need to understand that unless they take interest and they participate in these discussions, the fact that you were saying that it's a women's discussion, but I think, at least like 50% should have been men. So we also want to know how men mean to end this violence. Yes. It's not just a women's problem. Yes. It's a problem for the entire population, and women form half the population. Yes.
And so I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you that men have to be allies or they have to be participant. The reason for me to have an all-women, working women panel was because it's important for the world through these shows to understand the challenges that are being faced by women. And, activism always, Rimjim, comes at a cost. Reclaiming night, great ideas, but it comes at a cost. And these are personal costs.
Definitely. I think the first thing that I'm getting to understand is that a lot of my people who I thought was my very close social circle people are misunderstanding me. They are having opinions which shouldn't have developed if they knew me so personally. So that is a different kind of a realization. It is very different to be an activist or a researcher when you are connected with 50 to 100 people at max, and it is very different to be this person who every media is calling or every person is wanting to get connected with. Like before 15th August, I almost had my phone ring every second, and those were common people trying to reach out to me, and with all their hopes. It's very overwhelming to understand that all of us actually always wanted this, but we never thought that we actually could come out and do this on our own in the public. So it almost feels like this fire was somewhere burning. The coal was very warm, but there was a need of a flare, and that came out as a Facebook post. So I'm very glad that in this age of social media, when we are actually becoming apathetic to every issue, because we have videos coming in of everything and everything is very accessible to us, we have a lot of information. Still, Facebook could become a platform where people could get connected, and just like the Spring movement, just like the Wall Street movement, how social media made it possible and how it made common people connect with each other and stand for a cause which matters to them. This is still prominent, and this is an amazing thing to witness again.
Yes, and Debjani, before we begin our second round of thought sharing, I want to understand from you. There is someone who starts the fire, but of course we did not see it coming, and it begins with an incident. That incident becomes the rallying point. But when you go back home and you tell your family, what do you share?
I'm confused. I'm very proud that my workplace is safe. But what about the road, the public transport? And then there is my kid, my 10-year-old daughter. Now I have to teach her basically geometrically, this is good touch, this is bad touch, this will happen, that will happen. My question is why? She must know, but why in those terms that this will happen to you or this may happen? Why?
Let's talk about looking at the mirror. So when you look at the mirror, what do you see? In these times, not as much as you, but the times that we live in.
I see a lot of rage. I see a lot of rage. And because Rimjim was talking about hope, I think I cannot deny the fact of how much hope, how much Bangladesh contributed to that hope, people's uprising. I mean, just to know the people on the other side of the border who speak the same language as you and I, all of us, they stood up and they have achieved something humongous. I mean, we can debate about whatever has come out of it, but that strength just to show up in full power, and that felt very sacred at a point. I know it will sound cocky, yeah.
You know, talking about an industry from where, I'll just ask a question on that. You know, talking about the industry from where you come, film industry all over the world believes in certain norms which are unsaid norms. And it is given, nobody speaks about it. How difficult it is to break those walls there, particularly after the incident which has happened here.
Just like she was saying, it is so full of hypocrisy every other day because they will put you on a pedestal. They'll call you a Devi, but they will not stop. They will not stop expecting sexual favors. It's like it's considered an entitlement for people in power. Whoever that may be, it can be. It's just power versus the weak. Because she was also talking about consent. So I am in that part of the world where you only get to see these people in all their best of the razzle dazzle. But the thing is that the unsaid norms, like you said, with the Gita committee report coming out, you know, like sexual favor, if you get a chance, it is like an unsaid norm that I'm being nice to you, and the only currency here is that of sexual favors. So these are norms which goes around and people don't even question it, and there's an attitude of, you know. Yeah, you know. And the question is that you will always have to start by questioning the deep-rooted patriarchal woman that I am, because I was not raised in Uranus or Neptune or Pluto. I was raised here. So every time you point a finger at the violence of the patriarchy, you'll have to remind yourself that I'm also a patriarchal woman. So what am I enabling? We have all done mistakes, everybody. We have all been enabled to somebody or the other because we did not know better. We do not know. These are new studies. So it's a very liminal gray area right now. Even for, like I said, it's an unorganized sector. Entertainment is a very unorganized sector. So we don't know what is a boundary, what is non-negotiable, what is a barrier, what is negotiable. So we don't know. And it's a very systemic thing. It's a very patriarchal, systemic thing. And sometimes even we excuse things by saying that, you know, he meant it like a joke. He really did not mean it. But all these innuendos, the things that we grew up...
You know.
Yeah, you know.
So okay, so let's talk about you know. What do you know? And particularly after this.
I'll butt in where Benny just stopped. It's not just Tollywood or this industry or that. It happens in the media also. When the Me Too incident happened, what happened? After a point of time, it was all quiet. You asked me, why did I quit journalism? That was a separate matter. But when I was a journalist and I was at a very prestigious paper working, I was a fresher, not a fresher, I was a staffer there, but a very senior photographer had molested an intern. And in an office party. At an office party. This was nowhere else. When we got to know about it 2 to 3 days later, it was all hushed up. The intern was so scared. She had nothing to say. And she was asked, what do you want? You don't need to ask the girl, what does she want? You have a spine, you have a system, you have an HR, you have policies in place. But just because you're close to someone, whether it's the government, whether it's the professional space, whether the bosses or people in power, basically, you get away. That's where the problem is. And I will blame myself as well. I was very new. I was not even 1 year old in that organization. And most of us were women there in that publication where I worked. We were all women, except barring maybe the photographers and a couple of editors. And they were men, but the main team were all women. Everyone was quiet. That day it was that girl. The next day could be somebody else. It could be me as well. What did I do? I had to save my job maybe at that time. So we keep quiet. I think it should start, we spoke about the mirror. I think it starts from us. We cherry pick. When we can raise a voice, we raise a voice when we can. If it's convenient, if I am a TMC supporter, I'll keep quiet here. When it's happening in Uttar Pradesh, it's really bad. If it's happening in Bihar, it's really bad. Here, leaders who probably we were thinking were a change, like Moha Moitro and others, so many women from Bengal who are MPs, they were all quiet. And I don't blame them, it starts from us.
So this is selective outrage that we are looking at. That why should outrage or anger be selective? But Dr. Aparna, there is a national task force which has been set up by the Supreme Court. There is a lot of expectations from the doctors' community because that's why they have called off the strike. They are hoping that it will lead to safety of medical professionals, because we are looking at this girl being a doctor and a woman, or a woman and a doctor. But there are several such task forces and bills which have been pending.
Yeah. With due respect to the Honorable Supreme Court of India, the task force is happening. It's good. There's a way forward. But as I had said earlier, Marya, this girl, Abhaya, has been a victim of the circumstances of the premises that she was serving. So, according to a doctor, I feel this entire situation is analogous to an autoimmune disease, wherein my own immunity is targeting my healthy tissues and destroying it. It is called an autoimmune disease. So right now, the situation that is persisting within the Kolkata, the scenario in West Bengal is a sort of an autoimmune disease. We are not living up to our own standards, neither moral nor social, nothing. And so but still I'm hopeful that as much as the task force would do, the task force on ground in the name of Rimchim, Debjani, and Swati and Bini would do a lot more good to our society. I'm very hopeful of that.
So Debjani, let's start wrapping up from you. Where is the solution? What should women do and what can we do?
We must be vocal, but in a justifiable way. We cannot play victim, we have to be vocal, we have to fight. But there is one more thing. I am not a bichara, and we must remember that. And there is one more thing. Often we don't remember women who are our house elves. They are not in a secure place. They take the trains, they travel every day. We don't even think about what they are facing at their workplaces. It is the epitome of unorganized sector. So it is actually manifold. There are several problems, even for the male kids. I have heard a parent saying that I want my son to be an alpha male. Please stop. Please stop.
I still have hope. I won't say I have given up, but I think we need to stand up for each other, but first for ourselves. Because if we don't stand up for us and people close by, we are failing every single person. If I'm not standing up for myself, like I mentioned to you, that this is wrong, I can be penalized, I can be struck down for a while, but let's see, at least I'll sleep better, instead of thinking that I'm also part of this system. So it has to start from within. Whether it's at home, on the streets, at our workplace, it has to start from us.
The doctors in the city have started it. and other citizens joined us in this fight, Dr. Panna. Are you hopeful?
Yes. In Hindi, should I say?
Whatever you want to say.
ओके हम अपनी बेटियों को सिर्फ एक नाम अभी अभयदान दे रहे हैं. सच तो ये है कि भय ही बेटियों की परिभाषा बन के रह गई है. सो आई डोंट वांट एनी निर्भया अभया. Is there any other?
Why should she be fearless? I mean, these names that we have given to her, it's very, very unfortunate because, you know, there's no other way to address them right now. I wish we could take her name and speak about it more openly because
Yes.
that's the need of the hour.
Yes.
To give a face to, to give a face to, yes. Yes. Give a face to the fearless.
No, my point is, why do I have to continuously be Devi or fearless or Abhaya or Nirbhaya? Yes. Why is it my emotional labor all the time? So hope, I don't know, but yes, I know we just have to take that lens off. We have been in denial for too long. Call it a damn spade.
So let's call a spade. That's a positive note. Yes, please
Yeah.
continue.
परिभाषा भय का नहीं, अब परिभाषा भय का नहीं होगा. अभया का ये जो जीवन दान हो गया है बदकिस्मती से, वो वृथा नहीं जाएगा. Am I right?
Yes.
That will not go in vain. I'm very hopeful. I'm hopeful that I have a very solid team of young girls who are trying it best. Apart from the Honorable Supreme Court's task force, the task force on ground that I have here, and including Marya, Shakil, I'm very hopeful that भय अभी बेटियों का परिभाषा बन के नहीं रह जाएगी.
I'll give the last word to Rimjim.
I think the dialogue should continue. That's what I always believe in. And include men. That's always my view. I mean, I insist all the time that men must understand and be involved in this. That this is not a women's problem. It's a problem of the entire population, and women form just half the population. That's what I said before. So everybody must be involved in this, and they must take interest, and they must understand that this is also their problem. It's a gender issue. It's not a women's issue.
Thank you so much. And to the one reclaiming the night, we hope that we could reclaim each and every part of the day, including day as well. So you get the last word on this dialogue.
I think it is high time that in 2024 we learn how to pass the mic as well. We learn how to be inclusive. We learn how to stand with each other. Even though we don't see a person talking about themselves, we try to boost them and tell them that nobody is there but I am with you, and if you talk, I'll stand by you and I'll support your cause. I think it is high time we do that. It's high time we stop judging people and form a very sensitive lens of mixing up with humans. At the end of the day, we are humans, and it is very unfortunate that we're forgetting the humanly qualities. I think we should go back to that.
Okay, so let's go back to being what we originally are, which is our inherent humanness, and that's where it all begins. So thank you so much for participating in this dialogue and this round table. I think it was important for women of the city, as much as we have been talking about men as our allies and our, partners in this entire fight for safe spaces. It's important for women to have these dialogue. So thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you.